All right, this is Michael Kaplan from the American Guitar Academy, here with Steve Lukather.
Hey man, how are you?
Thanks for taking the time out.
Oh, happy to do it.
A lot of guitarists have a lot of questions.
Oh, really? Do they? I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, so why did you start playing, man?
Beatles, man.
Beatles. Everybody.
Started and ended. My guy's my age. You know, I'm 57 years old. You know, obviously that was a life-changing event 50 years ago to see the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and my parents got me a guitar and a copy of Meet the Beatles, and it was life-changing.
That was it.
I mean, I've had an extraordinary life, and I'm very grateful and honored and lucky to have had this whole weird career that I've had. It's not just being a guy in a band.
Of course.
I've had I studied music, and I wholeheartedly will fight anyone to the death who says that learning about music is somehow going to hurt your career any more than learning a foreign language or learning how to cook. I mean, knowledge is power. How you choose to use that. I mean, obviously there's a God-given thing that some people have a little bit more of a gift. I can't draw stick figures, you know what I mean? But I can play this thing a little bit, you know. There's a million guys better, but you know, you create a little niche for yourself. And I grew up in this little gene pool of people in North Hollywood, and all of us, you know, lived, breathed, studied, and hung together, and believed in this insane dream that someday we could actually become successful musicians. And almost 40 years later, here I sit, you know.
Yeah, after what?
I think I'm more thankful for it now than I ever was, because when you're young, you're running so fast, trying to be the biggest, you know, make the biggest noise, the fastest guy in the West, all that BS that seems so meaningless as an older person. I mean, it's great to learn all the parlor tricks and stuff like that. I mean, Eddie Van Halen's a dear friend of mine, and I was just sitting with him the other day, and I go, look what you know, we were making jokes like, he had no idea what it was going to start. That was just how he played, and he really makes beautiful music with it. But then, if you know, you see all these kids on the internet, the first thing they do is they start learning this.
Figure out eruption.
You know? I mean, we all learned it, and I certainly went through the stage of it all. We all learned it and did it, and
you had to at that. I mean, everybody.
In the late 70s and early 80s, you had to learn. You know, whenever there was a new trick, everybody had to learn it. Of course. Some people really made beautiful music with it, and some it was ridiculous, and I teetered on both sides of that fence.
For sure.
You know, Satch and Vi do some wonderful things with it, but they made it their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, they're not doing Eddie Van Halen licks by a long shot, you know. And those guys are absolutely stunning, beautiful, incredible players, and my friends too. Did
you practice? How old were you when you started playing?
7. You know,
did you practice a lot or play a lot?
Well, I mean, practicing, I didn't know what that was at first.
So you're just playing all day.
You learn songs. I mean, I was the first guy on the block that go. And I could go. You know, and all that, which I found out was Jimmy Page actually on the real record.
So you were really?
He was a studio player.
I didn't know that.
Jimmy Page was a studio musician.
No, I knew that. I didn't know he was on that.
You know what? But on the Kinks record.
But you know what? The way you did it back then, I think, is.
You learned how to play rhythm guitar first.
Well, you know, you learn how you. I think there's something to be said for learning by doing. You just play and play and play and play, and you figure stuff out. You figure it out for yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing was, you learned from somebody. Like the older kids, there was a bunch of guys that had a band down the street from me, and they used to let me sit around and I played my first electric guitar.
Hey, what was that? What did you play there?
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, it's one day all of a sudden it just made sense to me, and I started playing all the first position chords,
and then start moving them up, and
then all of a sudden learn the bar chord. You know, nowadays everybody jumps right to the end. They jump right to dessert. They don't do breakfast. Like in my first blues scale. Yeah. First bending. You guys developing the muscles, and I understand I had a guitar that had the strings. The $20 guitar my parents bought at a thrifty drugstore and said, you better take care of that thing, you know. And that breaking a string was like, well, what do you do with that?
Yeah, I gotta ask my mom for one way for
So I mean, it was a really different era then, you know. I mean, nowadays people take, you know, musicianship at a young age very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we were like kind of freakish little dudes that could play music, and by the time I was 11 years old, I was making money on playing gigs and stuff like this. I was terrible in sports, and I was bullied, and I was shy, and this became.
And then you got on stage, and you
just, you know, taking the needle off the records, and going back and forth, so it drove my parents crazy. Like they didn't understand why I had to keep playing the same thing over and over again. I'm trying to learn it.
Yeah.
And then you'd find some older guy that knew how to play all the shit right, and you realize, oh, I'd been playing it wrong. You know. First time I could play the Hendrix E, well, I was like, you know, forget about that. And I had a fuzz tone. And so, you know, it just sort of exponentially, as everything got more difficult, and the guitar playing became much more, besides.
Yeah, of course. But the more it's like
and
anything else. The more you, when you're young and you're playing, like you think you know it all, and then the more you learn, the more you realize and then you realize it never ends. There's always
no, man, are you kidding me? Every time I get up and find, like, I'm just playing with I'm on this tour with Larry Carlton right now. But he's been a friend and mentor for 40 years, and we've. I always want to be like him, like a studio player and stuff like that. I mean, I was more the rock and roll guy. There's no question. He was more the jazz guy.
Sure.
But I got really into the studies. I studied with Jimmy Weibel, God bless his soul. He was a jazz player, and he taught me to read and different kind of styles. And I just voraciously got into studying music. And they still had music in public school. It really, really helped me. It was really inspiring. Like, we used to, cut all the other classes and go
hang out in the music room.
Yeah, but then the teachers kind of dug us, and they you knuckleheads, man. They never really thought we were gonna maybe, I'm gonna be a successful musician.
Falls into all the studio work you did.
Well, yeah,
I mean, you don't even know probably over what, over 1,500 records, over 2,000. I mean,
I don't know. The numbers vary. I haven't really kept up on it. Some people. I mean, I stopped doing sessions 25 years ago. Had I kept on, like some of these guys, like Lee Sklar.
Oh gosh.
Who's like a 4,000 or 5,000 records, and one of the legendary players of all time. The guys that stayed in Dean Parks and people like that, who stay in the studio. Most of the other guys that I learned from, Jay Graydon and Larry and Lee and all those guys, they became artists and producers. Because and I heard when I was going, well, if you don't have a band or you're not doing anything, unless you want to be a TV film guy, your career is only going to last so long. Then you get like 10, 12 years, and then there's going to be a younger guy like you that they're going to want fresh ideas around. So.
What'd you do? You'd go into you'd go into the studio. You wouldn't hear the tracks beforehand.
No, we never did.
We
never. There was no demos back then. Matter of fact, there used to be kind of the minor leagues, like before people had home studios. They'd hire the younger guys to come in and pay $20 a tune to play in the demos. So you get to get some practical experience, B-level, and people trying to get record deals or songwriters wanting demos of their songs to get recorded by a major artist. And if you played something cool on there, they go, "Who played guitar on that?" Or a record producer, in the studios go, "Hey, that kid's really good. I couldn't get so and so. Let's give him a shot." And then I got some recommendations. Through through Steve Picard, I met Jeff and Mike Picard and Paige, and David Foster came around, and then I met Larry. Larry used to have me come up and hang out at the house with him and stuff when I was a kid.
Just play.
He took a shine to me, man. I was this goofy little funny little dude, and I was just really I made friends with everybody.
That's good.
And then Jeff turned me on to some of my first sessions. I was at home like, "Hey, get down to Richard Perry, man. We need a guitar player on style."
Now.
And the Boz Skaggs thing happened when we were right out of school, and my affiliation with that.
18?
All of a sudden, I was 19 when I
19?
did that.
Yeah.
But the Silk Degrees record that David Page and Jeff Picaro and David Hungate were such a big, huge part of. Steve Picaro jumped on and did that tour. Then I did the tour right after that. And then all this stuff all of a sudden snowballed into this whole thing. And all of a sudden, I was playing with those guys, so I said, "Well, this kid must be really good."
And then
playing with them, and I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time and show up
and have the skills.
Yeah, well, I would sit with Larry,
and
and I met Jay Graydon, and Jay kind of mentored me a lot, and he's godfather of my son Trevor. We were still lifelong friends. All these guys, we're all still really best friends now. And they really they gave me like worlds of advice on how, the school, the etiquette of how to be, how you deal with how you, the pecking order of how you do things, and what to expect on a gig, what they're going to expect from you. So I got a little insider info there, which helped, and I was really, I took it all in. Yeah. And it was a wealth of knowledge that I could never repay them for. And when I showed up on the gig, I brought it. It's luck to get. Luck to get in the door.
But you better have the skills when you get in.
It's luck to get in the door. There's no question. But just to get called back, that's on you. Yeah. And then you play on a hit record, and boom, it's like But nowadays, that shit doesn't exist anymore, man. It's a bummer. Everybody shares files. We used to joke about, "Hey, man, can I phone my part in?" Now you can. you can do a session with somebody around the world. Everybody has, nowadays, guys have their whole setups in the room, they have their own thing, and they don't move. Nobody wants to pay cards. But the downside of that is that you don't
there's
get the interplay.
there's no.
I used to go to work. Who am I playing with there? Wow,
Yeah.
Steve Gadd's in town.
Awesome,
Killer.
yeah, right.
You know, I mean, like I had to play with all these great, but we never knew what we were gonna play. I played with Aretha during the day and Alice Cooper at night. You know, that didn't seem weird to me. You know what I mean? Because I like all kinds of music.
Yeah, you're just playing music.
I wasn't a musical snob. Like, you know, some guys are like, oh, listen to jazz, or oh, listen to rock, or there's 10 different kinds of metal now, you know. I can't keep up with all this shit. I just want to play.
I assume guitarists are going to be watching this video, so I got to ask some guitar questions.
Sure. I'm not much of a teacher, man.
No. 9s, 10s, what 11s? What do you got? What do you got on there?
Oh, geez, these are just 9s, man.
9s.
I don't believe in hurting myself. Billy Gibbons uses 7s.
Sevens? Yeah, and yet Pat Martino's using what, like 15?
Well, you know, I mean, there's the big myth. I mean, sure, sometimes big strings can sound big if you use a really clean tone or something like that. But I mean, if you're making music, there's no right or wrong way.
Of course, it's your thing, man. You do it.
You know what I mean? I don't want to get tendonitis. I mean, a lot of guys, like, you know, people talk about Steve Ray Vaughan, well, his fingers are rotted.
Yeah.
You know, they're rotted.
Like,
you know, and a lot of guys, you know, they think it has to be painful for some particular reason. Now, other guys, 11s or something like that, you know, that's not normal. My buddy Joe Bonamassa, who's a killer guitar player.
I saw him when he was 16, man.
And, you know, he uses big guy strings, but he's always played those. And he's got big, strong hands and stuff like that, and it works for him. But then again, you know, like I said, on the other end of the spectrum, you got Billy Gibbons. He uses 7s, and he gets a badass tone. So,
what's your?
I mean, I've used 10s when I tune down. I've used a lot. You know, there's no right or wrong way to it. I just there's some harmonic things that you just get to sing better with lighter strings. If you hear somebody play and they play something that moves you, it doesn't matter what kind of strings or what amp or what guitar they play.
Of course,
sure, a great guitar. You know, and a great amp can help, but you know, you give a kid who can't play a 59 burst, and they're not going to all of a sudden sound like, you know, Peter Green or something like that.
Yeah. You feel like you've developed your own voice? That's probably a difficult. I mean,
well, everybody's voice is the thumbprint of everybody's playing is their vibrato.
Yeah. Oh.
There's no two alike. It's like snowflakes. That's what gives you your tone. I mean, everybody shakes it a little different.
Sure.
Some people have a fast.
Yeah. And some people can do it all.
Well, you do it all. Some people
like you.
Well, I can't do it. I'm listening. It's a work in progress.
What about amps? What do you said? What do you?
I've used them all.
Used them all.
You know,
is there a preference you have?
I'm using Wagner Ecstasies now. I love them because they can be dirty, but there's a little cleaner thing. Like I've backed off the gain aspect of my. Backed off a lot.
You use the gain on the amp, or
you know,
or pedal.
I use this. I don't use that much pedals. I mean, I have them out there for different things, for different gigs, but they're all boxes now. They're all little analog.
Oh, there's no
random. No. I don't do that anymore. I'm still being blamed for that. And you do something. Sure, everybody had to have that done. That was a request from producers.
But even
now that really served a great purpose, man. I mean, Bob makes great stuff, and he still does. He's a dear friend of mine.
Absolutely.
But I mean, we live in a different world now, and like anything else, I mean, there was the time of excess and everything, you know, where they, you know, if you play on one hit record and you have a sound, everybody wants to copy that sound, so all of a sudden that sound is copied, and my name gets stamped in it. I did this one instructional video, the only one I ever did, and I'll never do another.
I've seen it.
When I just got all this stuff, and I just turned it all on, because I just got it like 3 days before. I just got a tri-stereo chorus, delays, flanging and flanging. I read a real funny comment. Somebody says it sounds like a kazoo, and which it kind of does. And I have to, and I can laugh at myself, guys. Believe me, I don't take myself seriously.
I gotta ask you, difficult question.
What's it?
Favorite guitarist?
Is
that not like if you had to just?
If somebody asking me about who my favorite kid is.
If somebody asked me that question,
how do I start?
I actually have an answer. Me personally.
Okay, who's that?
For me, it's Wes.
Oh well, Wes.
For me.
No, that's
and it doesn't mean I love. I love Hendrix. I love like the whole gamut. But for me, when I hear Wes, it just
there must be something about that hit you.
I don't know
why.
And not till I was much older, but it just.
But you know, like I have to say, my very first guitar hero was George Harrison.
Yeah.
That was the honest.
And you always have that in your.
You'll always be there. You know that solo on I Saw Her Standing There was the one. And now by today's standards, they seem so tame. So I have to say that was probably the most influential thing. Then of course, when Jimmy landed. That was life-changing. Then Beck and Page and Clapton.
Give me all of them.
You know, and then you start getting into all these Robert Fripp and
Yeah.
Steve Hackett was the first guy to do all this.
But you also, I mean, although as you mentioned before, you I guess somewhat consider yourself more of a rock guy.
I'm these labels that everybody has to have.
Well, yeah.
I never sat around and learned Autumn Leaves and played standards. I mean, I did casuals when I was a kid. I could bullshit my way through it, but I didn't come to jazz as a purist. I came through it more like through Carlton and people like that, and then I became really enamored with it, with the harmonic aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, I'm sort of like an intelligent rock guitar player. Or like I can play through changes, but I don't come to it in the same 2-5 sense.
Of course.
Which is maybe why I tripped and fell on a little style of my own, whatever that might be. You'll see tonight when I play with Larry, I play way differently, and he brings this out of me. He brings a whole.
Oh, really?
I call him Sensei because
he's like
and then I get him to rock it up a little bit like that, because lately he hasn't been cranking up his amps like the way we like on the old Steely stuff. And he's with me, he does.
Come on, man.
and then I'm turning down and playing a little more emotive stuff with different choices of notes than I would say play on my own gig, Right. But I like smart music, I like Steve Vai's music is really insane. It's the Zappa-esque thing to it.
But you listen
and you have beautiful melodies from Satch, and then you guys got like Petrucci, who's insane chops, and that band is so well crafted.
He's using Ernie Ball as well.
And Steve Morse has his country-esque version of all that. So Landau's got the chord thing that he does that meets Jimmy, it's a hybrid, and we're all just kind of hybrids of all the shit that we grew up listening to. And everybody has their own way of making it work. You know what I mean? That's what makes it interesting. Everybody has the same.
Sure, but they all play it different. Yeah. You listen to mostly guitar music, or
no?
Not at all.
I love the guys like Andy McKee and John Gomb. I love acoustic music. I like listening to old Miles, like Herbie stuff, Wayne Shorter, like Four and More, all that stuff. I like acoustic jazz music.
Yeah.
But then I watch the History Channel and cartoons too. I got little kids, so I'm pretty, I love a good pop song.
But if you had to record an album tomorrow, a track tomorrow, solos are improvised or solos? Mostly. I mean, you're not sitting there saying, all right,
No. I mean, I
have an idea maybe. Or
sometimes, the ones that are composed are really obvious. They are. They're melodic. They fit the form, and there's other things around it. I write a melody, for example, a song like I wrote the song "I Won't Hold You Back" is very specific. I wrote that melody to be played on the guitar. Actually, I wrote the song on the piano. But yeah.
Well, I know you're. I thank you for the time. I just want to cut it short because I know you're pressed for time. But any just like quick advice for guys out there today? I know it's so much.
You know what, man? Yeah, I do have a little advice. And take it from an old guy now. And I'm saying, play all your favorite stuff. Learn everything you want to learn, whatever style of music it is, man. I would say keep an open mind. Yeah. And you know what? The art of rhythm guitar. Do not underestimate the art of rhythm guitar, man. You gotta play with guys. You gotta get in the garage and play with a drummer and a bass player, and even if you step on each other, you mess it all up. You're just playing for fun. It's great to sit on the bed and learn off the internet and all this stuff. Do that, but learn how to play.
Yeah. That's one of the things that a lot of the students at our school struggle with is that
it's got to swing though, man.
No, but they can play lead. But then you're like, okay.
Because they learned how to play that first.
But then I say, let's play, a blues. Don't. And they're just
it's
like,
stiff.
It's not a shuffle, it's not a swing, or anything. It's just rhythm guitar. Everybody wants to show off their hot licks, and they forget that that's only like how much of the song.
Well, the solo is all your favorite bands wouldn't be a band if nobody had any rhythm and nobody wrote a good song. Yeah. I think you need to study, play along to records.
Very important.
Like take your a favorite record and learn it, but then play to the record if you can't find anybody else to play with. Put up a rhythm machine. I mean, you've got GarageBand and all that stuff. It's right in your computer. Time. I can't stress time and feel. Learn how to say, if somebody gives you a chord chart and it says like G on it, you don't just go.
There's a couple other ways to play that.
You got to come up with a part. Use your creative mind to go. And the simplest thing.
And there you you go. And there's a part there's a track, there's a rhythm track, you know. Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've written a hook for a song, and they're going, "I want that guy. Hire that guy." That's why I got hired, not because of all this shit. That was like, that became.
You looked at it from
that became the '80s.
Yeah.
It was everybody had to do it. Who's the fastest gun in the West, and who can do all this stuff? The guys that survived that decade are the guys that created their own style with it.
Well,
yeah,
you're a
you know,
testament to it. Here you
my
go,
problem
yeah.
with that was that I tried to be all things to all people at all times. And I had developed something, and I sort of got off the path for a minute. And now I'm, oh wait a second, let me play to my strengths again. But I mean, there's something to be said about simple playing. That's why people like punk music. That's why people like a good R&B groove or something like that, because
it's in the pocket, and
anything that makes you go like this.
That's right.
Or anytime you can whistle a melody, like somebody who plays a solo, you can actually sing it back to them. It's really hard to sing, 64th note. You know? If you want phrasing wise, if you don't read music, use your ears. I mean, the lost art of learning things, slowly, methodically, painfully learning.
Oh, very painfully.
You're getting two things. You're getting ear training, and you're getting the knowledge of where that's coming from. Yeah. But go listen to, say, a horn, like a Miles horn. Like if you're a guitar player, copy Miles's thing. See how that, and make it feel. See where he goes, where that sits in. Like there's a quarter note, right? And there's you can play behind it, or at it, or right on it, or somewhere squirrely in the middle.
To be able to choose where to place it.
It's also how you phrasing is really key. I mean, it's not just seeing a sea of 16th notes played at 140 BPM. You know what I mean? I mean that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful stuff to learn. But if you want to really have a career at this, or even just have people want to hear you play for longer than 4 minutes, you know what I mean? Yeah. I would say spend some time on the rhythm and the phrasing aspect of things. The chops will come.
Yeah, well, that's wise advice.
Music is like a meal, man. You don't start with dessert.
Yeah, wise advice from.
I've just been, it's given me a long career by keeping an open mind, listening to all. I enjoy every kind of music. I can't think of any kind of music that really.
That you would say.
Well, really awful machine-made pop music, kind of is just irritating to me. They used to say we were slick and soulless. Oh, those guys. But we sat in a room and played that way. Now you put everything on the grid with auto-tuning and time correct and everything like that. It's like sitting on a chair you can't sit on. You slide right off the floor. There's literally not one thing.
There's nothing organic. There's no.
And then there's and they turn the auto-tune up on the voice, and it has a sound to it. Yeah, that people like that sound. No. It's almost like using a harmonizer too much on a voice. Back in the 80s, it's like that awful over. Processed guitar tone of the 80s that everybody was guilty of, that I got blamed for.
All right, you know what? We'll wrap it up, man. On that note.
No, I'm going to do another.
Thank you very much
for having me, brother.
No, thanks for taking the time.